So we believe that lithium-ion batteries are here to stay, and they're going to spill over into all those areas. For that reason, we think that and it's all driven by cost, we think that the key innovations have to happen on the raw material and the manufacturing side. So that's about finding the most efficient combinations of cobalt, lithium, nickel, and manganese, aluminum that go into the energy storage materials, and also into the way that those materials are assembled. So when you assemble these various metals into a complex material, you have an impact on the longevity and the range and the durability and the power and the energy, and that's where we have chosen to focus.
Our top tech company of 2016 is on track to earning millions of dollars in royalties as they are revolutionizing the $120 billion battery industry, a potential lottery ticket in a truly game-changing technological revolution. Headed up by Paul Matizik, whose track record is delivering 1,500% to 4,000% gains to investors with his last 3 companies. Learn more at crushthestreet.com/tech2016.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into crushthestreet.com. I'm joined today with Dan Blondal, and he's the CEO, director, and founder of Nano One Materials Corp. And this man has a lot of experience, 26 years of experience under his belt in engineering, technology, and management. And he actually has 8 patents under his belt. And the company he's running is providing solutions to the battery industry to make lithium batteries more efficient and cheaper to make. And we're going to get into this deeper within this conversation. But first of all, Dan, thanks so much for joining me today.
Well, I really appreciate the opportunity, Kenneth. This is it's an exciting time to be in this space, lithium space, and the battery space is obviously going very well, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it.
Absolutely.
And yeah, of course, yeah.
Absolutely, Dan. You know, I got to be honest with you. I'm a little sad I'm not going to be living in like the 22nd century to see where technology is going. I can't even wrap my mind around what we are going to see in 50 years, 100 years. But I know you are an expert when it comes to technology. You've spent your career in it. So just, you know, if you could just give us the tip of the iceberg on what you are excited about with where technology is going here in, you know, the 21st century.
Well, you know, Canada, 10 years ago, I worked in the printing industry actually, and it was a very exciting time, but it was also a sunset industry, and I made a very conscious decision to get out of it and move into the energy industry. I spent a little bit of time thinking about what it was going to be and how I was going to get involved in it. And that's really how the notions of Nano One came together. And I felt that the battery space was going to be big and expanding for many, many years. So I started applying myself to it, and here we are today in a space that's exciting on so many different levels, whether it be at the resource extraction space, the mining space, or all the way through to the end use in electric vehicles or consumer electronics. It's a very promising time to be in the industry.
So, in terms of the technology, I mean, what are you expecting to see take place going forward? What can us as a new generation expect to see? You know, battery technology has actually been lagging modern day practical use with, you know, cell phones dying in the middle of the day and having to charge, you know, these electric vehicles midway through, you know, a trip. You know, you can't even get home without having to charge your vehicle. So, I mean, where do you see this technology going?
Well, you know, the semiconductor industry and the electronics industry has increased many orders of magnitude in the last 20 years, and things have become way more efficient. That's why we pack so much use into a cell phone. But batteries lag because really those kind of improvements don't follow in the world of chemistry. And it's a bit of a double-edged sword because we get way more out of our batteries today, simply because electronics become more efficient. But when you're driving a electric motor and generators in an electric car, you don't get those kind of efficiencies. You haven't seen those kinds of improvements. So what the industry really wants to see in the battery space is improvement in performance, and that's all related to cost. So let me bring it back to an announcement that came out yesterday. I think probably everyone who's following this thread is well aware of Tesla's announcement and of the Model 3, which is going to be the 200-mile affordable car for the mass market. And that follows in the footsteps of Chevrolet's Bolt announcement earlier this year, and of course the other competitors in the space like BMW's i3 and the Leaf, and certainly in other foreign areas there's BYD's QIN car in China. There's a whole bunch of players out there sort of vying for this space, and it's all driven by cost. It's all about getting the cost down and being able to deliver acceptable performance, so that your car doesn't run out of juice halfway through the day. And these things they're tied to longevity and range, durability, power, and energy. And these are the parameters that we look for as users. But it comes back to the raw materials that go into those batteries and the way those batteries are assembled, the way they're manufactured. So, and that's really where. Yeah, go ahead,
Dan. So Nano One, I mean, you guys are focused on the $2 to $3 billion lithium-ion battery market, and people are calling the lithium the oil of the 21st century. And I mean, just give us an idea of how big lithium is, and is it really worth our attention here in the 21st century?
Well, I think it comes down to the fact that energy storage is a difficult and very challenging piece of technology. And lithium-ion batteries have been around since the early 90s when Sony put it in their first digital cameras, or the first cameras. And of course, we've seen it emerge into our cell phones, and that's where the technology's largely proven itself out. Now we've seen it adopted into electric vehicles, and I think that's where you're going to see the cost come down on the battery, and that's where the technology will be driven out to mass manufacturing. And for that reason, I believe that the lithium-ion batteries as an energy storage technology is here to stay, and it's here to stay for a while. You can see it in the recent spike in lithium prices.
Yeah.
In the last 3 to 4 months, lithium prices have gone way up, and they're going to stay there for 3 to 5 years at least, because there's a whole bunch of mines that have to come online, whether they be spodumene-based mines or salar-based mines. And until those production levels are up, we're going to see those prices and the industry's betting on that.
Yeah. And, I want to ask you about Nano One. I mean, how is Nano One positioning itself in the lithium story? So we believe very strongly that the electric vehicle market will be where lithium-ion batteries, as I said earlier, where the costs and the manufacturing efficiencies will be driven very, very rigidly, and that'll actually have spillover into grid storage later on, which could be even a bigger market than electric vehicles, because that's all about storing renewable power and distributing it to homes and actually deconstructing what's actually happening on the grid. And so we believe that lithium-ion batteries are here to stay, and they're going to spill over into all those areas. For that reason, we think that and it's all driven by cost, we think that the key innovations have to happen on the raw material and the manufacturing side. So that's about finding the most efficient combinations of cobalt, and lithium, and nickel, and manganese, and aluminum that go into the energy storage materials, and also into the way that those materials are assembled. So when you assemble these various metals into a complex material, you have an impact on the longevity and the range and the durability and the power and the energy, and that's where we have chosen to focus. When we look back historically over the last 20 years, the industry has been responding to batteries, but it hasn't been very proactive on the manufacturing and technology front. We feel there's very large opportunity there to displace a lot of the entrenched technology that's used to make these battery materials. So when it comes to the technology, is there other types of technology out there like this that you guys are embarking on, or is this unique to your company?
We have a very unique approach. We're developing basically a chemical assembly line, for lack of a simpler explanation. We're assembling nickel and manganese and cobalt into a structured material that will allow you to store lithium ions. And it's certainly being done to make batteries right now, but there's very little innovation being done at the kind of level we're talking about. The industry's using entrenched ways of crushing and grinding and milling these materials, and we believe that there are some much better efficiencies that we can bring to the market, and there are precious few players out there doing the kind of stuff we're doing.
Dan, we hear a lot about lithium and graphite within the battery space, but I was talking with you prior to the interview, and you were telling me there's more to it than just that. So, kind of give us an idea here, shed some light on, the developments that are going on in the battery space outside of lithium and graphite.
Yeah, okay. Let me take just a very quick step back and explain really how a battery works. You've got lithium moving back and forth between two electrodes. One of them has graphite on them. The other one has some mixture of cobalt, lithium, nickel, or manganese, or iron that allows the lithium to be stored back and forth when you charge and discharge the battery. And so what's really key in a cathode material is that you get the right blend of metals. And currently, there are two types of technology that are being pursued. In China and Asia, you see a lot of lithium iron phosphate. And in the rest of the world, we're seeing the use of nickel, cobalt, and manganese in the battery. Now, when you start to look at these other materials, you realize that cobalt is a very expensive and very restricted material. As we see batteries expand in volume of production, the most expensive components like cobalt are going to start to have a very big impact on the cost of the battery, and might even pose a supply risk at some point in the future. So we announced just yesterday, actually, a material that we've just begun working on. It's really early stage, but it's a cobalt-free, high-voltage cathode material. It's dominantly manganese, which is a relatively affordable and widely accessible resource. And it's got probably about a quarter of the materials in nickel. And so it's got a very, very nice cost profile, and it runs at high voltage, which means it can supply very good power and energy to the battery. There's lots of work to be done on this, but we feel it's a very advantageous material, and we expect quite a bit of strategic interest in this kind of material moving forward. High voltage materials that have a very low cost base in terms of the raw materials going in.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you one thing, Dan, is that you guys are a pioneer in a new frontier with a lot of areas to explore. So very, very exciting. Now, Nano One is a ground floor, early stage company, but you guys have some major developments here in 2016. I mean, you strategic partnerships that you guys are forming, and a lot of viability towards the credibility of the technology you have. So, go ahead and share a little bit of this recent news, the credibility and the strategic partnerships that, Nano One has going for it right now.
Right. So I would say that our let's start with kind of the assets that the company's developed and is developing. We have 3 patents issued in the last 6 months. Those patents got through the patent office in less than 3 years, which is very fast, and that's an indication of the strength and the uniqueness of the patents. Basically, we didn't run into any competing areas, so the patent office was able to get through quickly. They cover the process, they cover battery materials, and they cover their applications in batteries. So we cover the whole sort of value chain, and that's a very important and valuable part of what we built. On the back of that, we've been able to land non-dilutive, non-repayable funding from Sustainable Development Technology Canada, which is arguably one of the largest clean tech funds in North America. And their due diligence and risk mitigation has been extensive. It took us almost a year to get this grant in place, and so there's been a lot of people touching it, a lot of people looking at what we do. So we feel there's quite a bit of value in that risk mitigation. And on top of that, we're now working with in collaboration with Nano Engineering, who are companies that are globally renowned for building large chemical plants and electrochemical plants, and so their involvement in our scale up is really about de-risking the scale up and the manufacturing of these materials at the kind of volumes that the industry is looking for. So those are really our assets that we're working with today. And then, I can talk a little bit about some of the people behind.
I was going to ask you about the people. You do have some anomalies on your team. And obviously we're getting to hear from you as the founder, the CEO. But go ahead. Share a little bit about the management and the people that are involved with Nano One.
Well, you're well aware of Paul Matistic. I know you've interviewed him in the past. Paul is the chairman of Nano One, and he's very actively involved with the company. He certainly opens a lot of doors and brings a lot of credibility from the market point. So Paul has been a fantastic asset to us, and obviously Paul's had a lot of really big wins in his space.
It took him some time, right, to actually come on board. He did a lot of due diligence with Nano One before he said, "Hey, I'm going to be a part of this company," right?
Yeah, it was probably about a 8 months to a year-long process.
Yeah.
We met Paul about a year before the RTO came into place, and we listed about this time last year in 2015.
Dan, so I wanted to ask you, is there anyone else that is on your technical team that you wanted to spotlight here in this interview?
Yes, absolutely. We brought on a fellow named Dr. Stephen Campbell back in September in 2015. And Stephen came to us after spending 25 years as a principal scientist at Ballard Power Systems in the fuel cell business, and he also spent 8 years in that span with the automotive fuel cell company, which is a joint venture between Daimler, Benz, and Ford. So Stephen comes to us with a very credible background in the development of technology in the automotive space, and that's a really key part. He's a really key part of our team, and he's brought a lot of fantastic energy to our group, and of course quite a bit of exposure and credibility for the electric vehicle space. So we're very excited to have him on board.
In conclusion here with the company, Dan, where does Nano One ultimately intend to go and develop and just build out the company? What are your plans with the company?
Well, I think first of all, we look at what needs we're trying to meet. We're trying to find a way to offer manufacturing advantages into the lithium-ion battery space. So these would be the value added to the guys that take lithium nickel manganese, combine them into a value-added product. So we're trying to bring those manufacturing advantages, but at the same time, we're trying to unlock value in raw material reserves as well. So imagine a lithium deposit that is substandard, not quite in the battery grade or EV grade. We believe that some of these reserves may actually be viable through the technology and process that we're doing. We assemble those into a very viable cathode material. So those are two areas where we feel we can address needs. So with that in mind, what we plan to do is bring those technologies to the market in a technology package, which is basically all of our patents, and then an engineering package, which is what we're working with Nano Engineering on. So we're developing a pilot program to demonstrate the full-scale production of these materials. Now, we're going to be doing it at a smaller scale, but the idea is to offer line of sight full-scale manufacturing. But one of the players who might adopt this technology they get the protection of the patents, and then they get an engineering package which allows them to put it on the floor and commercialize it, bring it to commercial scale very, very quickly. And our strategy has been all along to bring these two things to market as quickly as possible. So working with NORAM allows us to do that, do the engineering package, and of course we continue to innovate, and there'll continue to be more patents and likely more grants and likely more industrial engagement, even all the way through 2016 and beyond.
Well, I mean, ultimately, it's cheaper batteries with more efficiency for the market. Is that fair to say, Dan?
Well, absolutely. I think that while we're reducing the cost and the efficiency and improving the efficiency of the battery material, that has a very interesting. That can have some very interesting impacts when you start to think of electric vehicles. Electric vehicle batteries, Kenneth, are when they design them for end of life. So Tesla wants their battery to have a certain amount of energy capacity at the end of its life because that's what they guarantee. And it's important for them that battery. So they built the battery at a little bit bigger than they would expect, but things going to fade over time. And if we can bring materials that are not only cheaper and better but last longer, then it would give a company like Tesla an opportunity to build a smaller battery, which would be lighter, less costly, would have greater mileage, etc. So we believe that there's some really strong synergies here in improving the way these materials are manufactured, so that we improve their longevity, and they then start to drive the way the batteries are designed. And if we can make a smaller battery that packs more energy, then I think it's good for everybody.
Everyone, this is Dan Blondal, the CEO, director, and founder of Nano One Materials Corp., traded under the TSXV under NNO. Dan, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today and just introducing us to this company. And, if people want to partner with this company, they can find the company at your website, which we'll have at the bottom of the video. And you can also purchase and partner with this company by purchasing the ticker NNO on the TSXV. So, Dan, thank you so much for coming on the show with me today.
Well, I really appreciate it, Kenneth, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and your followers. And it's really exciting to have this level of interest in what we're doing. Thank you.
Absolutely, and I look forward to all of the success that you guys are embarking on. So, really exciting times here. Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you.